What's going on YouTube? It's Ren from Team Arsenal back with another video. Today we'll be having a deck profile for a possible deck I think can be viable for this upcoming format, Salamangreat. Budget, can play 9 to 15 hand traps, can OTK easily, makes pretty simple boards, and quick to learn, easy to play. So before we get into it though, shout out to everybody who was supporting me through my time of need last week when I was a little under the weather. That's why we didn't have a video. My apologies. Everybody who got to me on Facebook, Instagram, etc. Thank you so much. Also, if you are in our playmat giveaway, we will be having the giveaway and announcing the winners starting next week. I think the 15th, that is, the time of recording this video, September 15th. So stay tuned for that video. And without further ado, let's get right into it. That said, we're looking at budget options for the upcoming format, starting off with Salamangreat, and we'll be doing deck profiles for the next couple weeks. Let's get into it. Start with the hand traps. We're playing triple Ash Blossom, triple Droll, triple Effect Veiler, triple Nibiru, and triple Infinite Permanence. Ash Blossom and Infinite Permanence, I have to explain these. These are usually go-tos and standard for every deck that plays hand traps because they cover everything. They don't necessarily end a turn, but they can really be a serious disruption. So I won't explain Ash or Infinite Permanence. We're playing the Effect Veiler as a pseudo 4th to 6th copy of Infinite Permanence that can be drawn off of Heat Souls and still be viable and usable. It's not once per turn, which makes it adds to its utility. But that's usually where it ends at, though. It's not the strongest hand trap. But like if it's paired with Nibiru, paired with Ash, paired with Droll, like that, it becomes a way better option. This one you could possibly tool around with. Maybe Ghost Bell, maybe Karakura, whatever you may see fit for your current build. And then we're going to cover Droll and Nib, basically in the same preference as these are turn stoppers. Though nowadays, a lot of people are playing around Droll and Nib if they can. But usually if you pair some other hand traps, it should be fine. Because most decks nowadays are definitely hitting that 5 to 6 summon threshold where Nibiru is live. And Droll, it's always going to be in the format, unfortunately. It's been in the format for the last couple formats. Every deck is looking for consistency, looking to draw, search, whatever it has to do to get there, and Droll is the way to stop them. So that's my 15 options for this one. Like I said, they can be tinker around, play with, but I'm more so I'm a little harder on the Ash, Droll, and Imperm. The Effect Veilers and Nibs are up to your preference personally. But moving into the actual monsters, start off with the honorary Salamangreat Flame Buffalo. This one is a great normal summon for the deck. This can be linked with Baylinks, which then turns into Field Spell and draw 2 if you have another Cyberverse in hand. And you don't mind getting rid of a Foxy, a Spinny, or even a Jaguar in situation because these are also would trigger your Gazelle, which we'll get to in a minute. Right now I'm looking to find 6 viable normal summons for this deck. And the reason I'm playing like 2 Buffalos, like I feel like it's stronger than maybe a Foxy, but it's not as strong as a Salamangreat of Fire. And plus, you got to respect the fact that we are playing Pod Desire, so you don't necessarily want to banish it. But moving on to our next possible normal summon for the deck, Salamangreat Foxy. This one is probably the weakest of the 3 when we're talking about Buffalo, Foxy, and Salamangreat of Fire, because this one is more of just a duality on a normal summon. But it gets its more utility when it's actually put in the graveyard, because if you have a Salamangreat monster in your hand, and your opponent possibly has a face-up spell or trap, like a Floodgate or something like that, you can literally pitch the Salamangreat monster, special out the Foxy, and then pop the spell or trap. It's an optional part. It's more so the fact of those are requirements that are needed to special summon out from the graveyard, but it's pretty solid. Like personally, like I said, this one I would probably prefer to put it at 1 if I was playing this without Pod Desires, but it's up to personal preference. Then moving on to Gazelle, there's a reason why it's at 1. This is literally easily the best monster in the deck. It can literally be summoned for free if you send a Salamangreat monster from anywhere, from your hand, graveyard, hand, field. It does not matter. Even deck, it does not matter. Special it out, activate its effect to send a Salamangreat card from your deck to graveyard. Usually this will get you into your Spinny or get you to one of your traps, but with the addition of the Raging Phoenix, which I'll show you guys in the extra deck in a little bit, it makes it a whole lot easier. There's a reason why it's at 1, but personally, the deck is not the strongest right now. Like, it's really great. It's a really great deck, but its inherent weaknesses, what we'll get to, is the reason what holds it back. We'll move on to the next Salamangreat monster. We're talking about Jack Jaguar, Recursion, Extender, Beefy Boy, you name it. What it shines at is the fact that it has the recursion ability that actually summons itself out from the recursion. If you control a Link, Salamangreat Link monster, you can literally target one other Salamangreat monster in your graveyard, put it back in the deck, and then summon him out to that zone it points to. This really helps us out with our Mirage Stelio, our Sunlight Wolves, even our Raging Phoenix in some cases. This is one you kind of hate this in your hand, but this is the reason we have Signet Mining, this is the reason we have Flame Buffalo, etc. For that situation. Then moving on to one of our new pieces of support in Salamangreat Fire. This is basically our replacement for Lady Debug in the deck because it basically does exactly what Lady Debug does, but it's in an archetype instead. Allows you to search for a level 4 or lower Salamangreat monster, which that's every Salamangreat in this deck right now. And then from there is basically one card combo, which I can show you guys right after this part of the video. But the weakness of the deck, the card itself, unfortunately, is that it locks you into special link only fires, which kind of pushes the people away from it, but you can't take away the fact that it's a one-card starter, which allows you to get you into Raging Phoenix Reincarnated with a Salamangreat Trap and a Gazelle follow-up, just off that one card alone. So, I mean, take that with you when you make your arguments of how bad the card is. And moving on to Spinny, I should explain this is one of the better extenders in the deck, especially off with the legs on it. For starters, if you control a Salamangreat monster, you can literally pitch this card, boost any monster on the field by 500 attack, and then if it's in the graveyard, you control Salamangreat monster, you can lose special off in the graveyard. It's a free extender, but just be careful with that because if you just link it away or anything like that, and you don't overlay with it, it just banishes it from the graveyard. But you can always get another one, so it's not the end of the world. And then finally, another extender we got is new support as well. Salamangreat Weasel, which Josh knows, he's a tuner, but that doesn't come up in this deck particularly, but you can probably build around it. What we use them for is the fact that if you have literally just all you have to do is have 2 or more Salamangreat monsters in the graveyard, you can special from the graveyard for free. And then he also has a neat ability. If you summon a Salamangreat extra deck monster or a ritual monster to the field, and he's in the graveyard, you can literally target one of the Salamangreat monster in your graveyard, put it on your opponent's side of the field, and put him about on the deck and draw a card. Now you might think this is not the greatest, however, you're drawing a card, you're putting back resources, and you're putting up a little barrier against your opponent when it comes to Lightning Storm, Infinite Impermanence on their turn, as well as Evenly Match, etc. So keep that in mind. Which, I mean, that's the reason I'm playing. It's a pretty solid pickup. Then moving on to our spells. We have one-sided mining. You're probably thinking, why am I playing one? Well, in a format where your draw is very prominent, you would prefer to just have the monster straight up. And it's how the fact of cards like this kind of lose really badly to Ash. Yes, it's sending a card for cards that might actually help you out, maybe a Jack Jaguar or Foxy or a Spin, like I said before. But if you get Ash on that sided mining, you're basically left with just 3 cards to play with if you're going first. And it's kind of a neg too at that point. It feels really, really bad. So now that they gave us actually an opportunity to play 3 Circle, I prefer to play this over the sided mining because first of all, I can play around draw because it's obviously quicker play, so you can play it in draw phase, standby phase. Does the exact same thing that sided mining does, just without the added cost of sending a card from your hand to graveyard. Helps you easily play around draw and everything. So this is why I kind of prefer to play 3 Circle and 1 Signet, or you can play 2 Circle, 2 Signet. It's up to you, your preference, but just me personally, this is the way I prefer to play it. While we're also on Circle actually has an extended effect where you can target one of your reincarnated Link Salamangreat monsters, and you can actually protect it from monster effects the rest of the turn. It's completely immune, but that effect doesn't really come up much. And then Pot Desire is just basically keep our hand count going, keep consistency in the deck. There are some times where you see a lot of hand traps, and you just pray to God to get an extender to keep playing. But other times it's more so just that you build a board, you Pot Desire after the fact that just to draw more hand traps. That's simply all it is. Now moving on to our Salamangreat Sanctuary. Honestly, this one it's necessary. You gotta play it. It's just bad. It's one of the worst field spells I've ever played. But it's required for the archetype it's played in. It's an easy way to reincarnate without actually using a whole bunch of bodies to do so. But it's not something I will play more than one of. Like, it's grabbable back off of your Sunlight Wolf. You also search it off of your Baylink, so it's like it's not necessary to have more than one of it if you just keep that one in circulation. And then one of the best kept secrets in this deck, one of the best cards in this deck, Will of the Salamangreat. Why is it one of the best cards? Well, for starters, it's an extender every single turn. It's a continuous spell that literally allows you to special summon one Salamangreat from your hand or graveyard every single turn. Then it has you need the effect to be a soul charge if you control a reincarnated Salamangreat monster. It just basically allows you to send it to the graveyard, special on any number of monsters, Salamangreat monsters from the graveyard, equal to the link rating of that monster. So, for example, with Raging Phoenix, who's a link 4, you literally can send this to the graveyard and literally summon out 4 monsters from your graveyard. If you lose at that point, I don't know how you did it. I don't know how. It's a free soul charge, like a built-in soul charge that's searchable. Amazing. Even if I wasn't playing Pot Desires, I still play 2 of this. I'm sorry. It's that great of a card. And then finally, our traps, the backbone of this deck, Rage and Roar. I'm playing between 2 and 2 and then 1 and 1. Because with Desires, you're a little scared of that one. But the fact of the matter is, you're trying to build a board to actually stun your opponent and OTK him the next turn. You're not really trying to sit here and have a serious grind game if you can help it. And then, like, would it be a searchable off of Rage now? You don't necessarily need. It's not necessarily needed to play multiples of it at this point, unless you're scared of Pot Desire. That's my only concern. But Hard Draw 1 is also not bad too. So, but that's it for the main deck. 40 cards. Moving on to the extra deck, you can tutor this to how you prefer it, but this is usually kind of standard for most Salamangreat decks. You're playing triple Sunlight Wolf. Most people are trying to do 2 now, but even with Raging Phoenix, I feel more comfortable with 3. Like I said, in the grind game, you kind of prefer to have a third one, but usually you always putting one back with your Jack Jaguar, but it's personal preference. This is usually the go-to card in the deck. That's why I have this and Balinx both at 3 each. But like I said, it's up to your personal preference. I just can't do less than 6. And then the new support, the greatest support we got so far, Salamangreat Raging Phoenix. Basically, if you reincarnate this, it searches for any Salamangreat card in the deck. On top of the fact of if any of your face-up fire monsters are destroyed, not even Salamangreat, just fire, are destroyed by battle card effect, you look at send this out from the graveyard. For free. So this is an amazing card for me personally. It could have had some more protection or whatever on it, but search out any card in your deck and then proceed to have a reincarnation effect on its own just to summon stuff back out is pretty amazing. And then we're going to finish off with our Salamangreat monsters. We're going to skip over to the Mirage Stalio. Don't need to play more than one of this. You can really bring it back to the extra deck via Jack Jaguar. It's a pretty nice card. I don't know what it's a pretty nice card. And then moving on to the rest of our links. Splash Mage. Should have to really explain this. This is a Cyberse deck. This is pretty standard in most Cyberse decks. Transcode and Update Jammer have always been linchpins and Salamangreats. The fact that it literally says, hey, I can go ahead and swing twice, and then I get if I'm using Access Code Talk, I can literally pop like at least 3 cards on the board, and then swing twice for 53 damage. It's pretty crazy. That is insane. And then we have our Link Decoder. This one is more so if it's a combo where you literally have Splash Mage summon back out a Cyberse from graveyard. That's obviously level 4 or lower. Link away that monster for a Link Decoder, and then link away the Splash Mage and the Link Decoder into your Heat Soul. And then that would trigger this to summon back out from the graveyard. So it's basically a free access code after you draw one off of your Heat Soul. Which, by the way, you got to play this card. It's a Cyberse card. This is a Cyberse deck. Why not pay $1,000 to draw cards? Like, come on, guy. And then Access Code Talk, I shouldn't have to explain this card whatsoever. It's like literally one of the best game enders in the entire game. Moving on to the side deck. Now, you can tinker this to how you want. It's personal preference. But for me, I'm just doing triple Bell, 2 Magnemite, and 1 Druid Swarm. Most decks right now fold to this. You're thinking of like Labyrinth, Dragon Link, Runic specifically fall to this one. So many decks in the game right now are really graveyard oriented. So yeah, this is a pretty safe bet. Especially also we have the Call by the Grave here, but you could twist that around or change it to something else if you want to. And then we have Triple Cosmic for back row, Lightning Storm. Because this deck's biggest hindrance right now, I believe, is the fact of board presence. If you make a big board against this deck, you're probably going to win that game. It's hard for it to climb out and deal with these larger boards nowadays. That's why I was able to actually play 15 hindrance to actually stop you from getting into that big board. Because once you get to that big board, this deck probably just folds to you. And Lightning Storm just helps with the cleanup. And then D-Barrier. A lot of people saying they want this card to go. This card is amazing to me. I'm sorry. I don't see the reason why it stuns me for a turn. As it should. I mean, you think I want to deal with do it in a immune noir, or you think I want to deal with tier limits popping off left and right? No, I don't. This just handles that for me. So that's the deck for me right now, guys. You can, like I said, twist and change it to how you prefer. My only thing with this deck, like I said, it's inexpensive, it's pretty cheap. My biggest concern though with the deck is like every other deck, it loses to Shifter, it loses to Droll. Like Droll really hurts this deck, so you have to really learn to play around that card. But like this every other deck. But its biggest hindrance is Nibiru for free, because to this day it still has no way to play around Nibiru. Even when it does reincarnation, it would just going into Sunlight Wolf, reincarnate, set back row pass, it's still 5 summons. So that's the biggest hindrance. But if you learn how to play around Droll, Nib, you're fine. You're fine. It's a pretty good deck. All right, guys, we're back with the combo portion. Just a quick combo. I'm gonna show you guys. Literally, just requires 1 Salamangreat Fire. That's it. And then, like I said, keep in mind this is 1 card, and you have 4 other cards in your hand to play with. So starting it off, we just literally go ahead and normal summon. Sorry, what I gotta do is by hand. I just these saving replays. Anyway, you go ahead and Salamangreat Fire. Go activate its effect to search for a Salamangreat from deck. Here, we'll go ahead and search for our Gazelle. Then you go ahead and link this away for your Baylinks. You can go ahead and do Baylinks will be your 1, Gazelle will be your 2. And then from here, we'll also do Gazelle's effect to dump our Spinny. Spinny, since we control a Salamangreat, we can special summon from the graveyard. Then you go ahead and overlay these 2 into your Mirage Stelio. Use the Mirage Stelio effect, we can detach the Gazelle, because the one we're going to grab back if possible. And we'll summon out our Jaguar. Like, seems like pretty standard stuff right now, guys. Nothing too crazy. Then we'll turn these 2 into our Sunlight Wolf. Then from here, we'll go ahead and do Jaguar's effect. Just to put back this to the extra deck. Summon stuff out to the zone that Gazelle points to. Not Gazelle, excuse me. That Sunlight Wolf points to. And the Sunlight Wolf will then grab back our Gazelle. All right, cool. And then we'll link this back away just for that Baylinks that we just put back. Just to have 1 in graveyard. Then we could turn all of these into our Rage Phoenix. Cool. All right, so from here, we'll activate our Sanctuary. Boom. We'll reincarnate. I'm not going to get rid of that one. I'm just going to put 1 in the graveyard so we know we reincarnated. Which will then allow us to search for a Salamangreat card, which in this case, you can add your Roar, Rage, whatever you feel like. In this case, where I like to just go for Roar. So have a negation set up. Add that to your hand. So now, boom. Off of your 1 Salamangreat of Fire, you end up with Fill Spell, Rage, Reincarnated, with Roar and Gazelle. So you have a negation already set up with follow-up with the 28 body. And like I said, you got 4 other cards in hand you can play with. Those can be like 2 hand traps, 3 hand traps. It could be extenders that make this even more menacing. Whatever you prefer. But that's gonna wrap it up for this video, guys. So what you think about it? Anything we could have done better, or even if you prefer just to see our combo tutorial on this deck, let us know in the comment section below. Remember, like, share, comment, subscribe. Ren, Team Arsenal signing out. Peace and have a great day.